Hello and welcome to the Make Ideas Reality podcast. I'm Justin White, otherwise known as the Garage Avenger, and this is the first live audience podcast recording of this podcast ever, so welcome. Now, many little boys and girls dream to become an astronaut. Most, however, get told it's fantasy, and to get their heads out of the clouds and put their feet firmly on the ground with a good old set of reality boots. My guest today, however, has thrown off those reality boots and slipped on a pair of space boots and is firmly on his way to the stars. But he's no scientist. Neither is he a decorated fighter pilot. No, he's one of us. He's a maker. He's a designer. He's an inventor, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. That he's first and foremost a maker, a problem solver, and how that skill set has made him an attractive candidate to the space program. But I think before I get started, I just need to do my cringeworthy, obligatory rhyming intro, so here we go. Lost in space as a teenager, joined the military, said the sergeant major. But I want to solve the problems without bloodshed. I know, I'll build the world's fastest snow sled. I'll also fix that pesky power socket. Then I'll strap myself to a Falcon 9 space rocket. Welcome to the show, Nima Shahinian.
That is by far the most beautiful, amazing intro I ever gotten.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for being here, and thank you to the audience that spend their time on Saturday listening to us.
Oh, think about that.
It's an honor.
Now, we're doing this podcast in English because this is an international podcast. There are listeners all over the world that listen to this podcast. And I'm so grateful to share Nima's journey with them. So a lot of Nima's story is being covered by the Norwegian media. And it's about time he gets his story out into the international world. So I'm very privileged to have this podcast with you right now. So thank you.
I'm the privileged one, so thank you.
Now, from looking online, I found a lot of photos of you. And you kind of look like a millionaire playboy. I mean, look, we've got a couple of photos here. There you are playing with your supercars. There you are on your plane. And there you are male modeling. Oh, sorry, my bad. That was possibly me. There you are also on TV, mixing it with the stars. But I wondered, did you want to briefly introduce yourself? Who is the real Nima Shahinian?
Yeah, I'm neither a millionaire or a billionaire or a playboy. Would be fun to be for a day, not for a lifetime. Yeah, Nima Shahinian is first and foremost a maker. So I was born in Iran in 1982. So power to the Iranian women these days. Power to all women these days.
That's right.
Yeah, I was born in Iran. My dad is a car designer, so that's what I wanted to do when I grew up, right? Moved to Norway in 1987. I was 5 years old. Grew up in Hakadal, which is 30 kilometers north of Oslo. Dreaming of the stars already then. So that's kind of the groundworks for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want more detail?
Well, we can maybe go into that a little later. But I mean, the Norwegian media has sort of posted you as this high school dropout, you know, and that became an astronaut. And the media's pretty good at glossing over the fact that, you know, you've had a decorated military career, and you've also become an award-winning designer. I do, however, want to go back to that time, and I wanted to sort of ask you to explain perhaps where your head was at back then when you were deciding to drop out of school?
Yeah, first of all, media is glossing over that, as you are saying, and in one way, I think it's a good story to tell to all the other, to all the kids that are struggling in school. There are different alternatives, but still, it's not something that I want to recommend to anyone because it kind of creates this, what can I say, detour in life that makes it, harder if you want to do stuff later and stuff. So, so I always recommend people to finish up school, but still. When I was a teenager, it began pretty early. I didn't, from putting me, in my head, I was a scientist. I was an explorer. I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to be in the forest and find out how the bees lived. That's the kind of curiosity I have, and school didn't give me that from early on. So I felt I was put in a super boring office job, told to sit still for 5-6 hours a day. So school kind of killed my creativity. So I ended up being the guy in the back drawing instead, fantasizing of my products and my cars that I was drawing at that time, kind of popping out the paper and becoming reality. So when it started like that, it kind of created this storm that went on till I turned like 16. And then I began on, what's it called, the videregående in English. I don't know what the international system is on that.
Let's call it upper high school.
Yeah. So I had this experience, and I was sick and tired of school, and I was sick and tired of teachers, and I think, being a teacher is admirable. I love teachers today. But the way the school system was set up didn't give them the possibility to be the best version of themselves. Regarding philosophy of teaching and stuff, and inspiring, not least. So I got into design school because I had this talent, and with all humbleness, let's be honest, I could draw better than the teachers by then. I had this drawing talent.
Humbleness?
I am a humble guy, I think. Try to be. But what happened is we had this assignment, which was draw 3 things about yourself. So okay, I played basketball, I drew a basketball and a pencil and stuff, and the assignment said draw 3 things about yourself on drawing paper. So I did it on sketching paper without thinking about the detailed importance. So they flunked me on that. And I was like, is this really, I made this piece of art. I'm super happy with it. I spent probably 40 hours drawing this, shadowing, and really thinking about all the stuff around it. And I flunk on that. And I thought, this is not a system that I want to be a part of. So that day, I went home and never went back to school. But then I wanted to begin again, but I got sick. I got kyssesyken. Again, I don't know what it's in English.
Kissing sickness.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I was kissing a lot. No, I wasn't that either. But I got really sick for a while and totally demotivated. So I didn't do anything for a couple of years beside playing PlayStation. I think I had around 2 years just being the best Tony Hawk player on PlayStation.
Nice.
Ever. That's what I did for 2 years. Nothing else. I didn't work. I didn't have any perspective of where I was going. Yeah.
What do you think those early years of sitting there playing hours and hours and hours of Tony Hawk, what did they teach you that you've brought into your career now?
The hardest teaching of that was I wasn't fulfilling my own ambitions. So actually, I didn't care about the disappointment of my mom and dad and the family around me. It was my life. But the disappointment I felt towards myself, not because I didn't go the same track my friends were going, but they were celebrating their exams and they were going into different studies, and everyone just went away, started at universities and this and that, and I was still sitting there. So time kind of stood still for me. That was probably the hardest teaching, learning outtake for me. That period was feeling so isolated and alone, and I didn't have the groundworks for what I wanted to do that being an astronaut or becoming a designer or whatever. It was kind of a hopeless situation. So the loneliness of that was pretty hard and a lot of learning. So yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of talk about you in the astronaut program, and I just wanted to take some attention away from you being all cool and astronauty, and just also say that I too am an astronaut of the deep, or have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have pushed buttons and read adult magazines for 8 years on a Collins-class submarine in Australia.
Yeah.
And I've learnt a couple of things from that experience. I've learnt that shrimp are a noisy bunch and they deserve to be on a sandwich.
Yeah.
And I also have learned that when you need to make decisions, you need to be adaptable. And I wondered, I'm just going to quickly flick through this slide because no one needs to see me shirtless. But that was me back then. But you've been in the military.
Yeah.
What do you think back then, being able to make a decision and adapt, how have you taken that from the military into your design career?
Oh, a lot of stuff. First of all, shrimp are a noisy bunch. I think you are talking about the sonar and shrimp kind of scrambling that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I know the problem.
Not many people know that.
No, because the pictures you've chosen here are, desert pictures from Afghanistan, I think, yes?
Yeah.
But I'm actually trained in naval warfare, so I'm a Navy man. I've been at sea and I know the shrimp thing. Mackerel also. So, but of course, Norwegian military is a pretty ethically, all military is ethically difficult, right? Why do we need weapons and stuff? But when it comes to teaching methods, if we isolate that and how you develop people, Norwegian military is pretty well developed. So in the Norwegian military, they focus so much on self-development, way of using integrity, able to do quality work, which means that you need to adjust yourself to the tasks you are doing and always be adjustable. So there are a lot of things that I learned there. One of the things I can use as a concrete example that I brought from the military directly into design work is not being good at one thing, but being super good at processes and planning processes. Because when I'm doing design work, it doesn't matter to me if I'm designing a chair or a spaceship or a restaurant bar disc. Doesn't matter because it's all about the process. So the outcome and the product I'm working on that will be the result of the process, right? So I have to be adaptable, and I have to have the ability to learn new stuff extremely quickly.
Yeah.
And that's the same kind of mental state you have to be in the military all the time, because you kind of meet challenges in war situations that you need to adapt to. You need to be the guy that are super high level of empathy towards local people, but also highly technical in order to repair your car and keep your head cool all the time while doing that. So that's all stuff that I brought into the design work I'm doing now.
Yeah, because I find in my work what happens is, I'll have an initial idea and I'll start driving towards that, and I'll realize that is a dead end.
Yeah.
And then rather than get stuck, I'll get frustrated. There'll be some tantrums in the workshop. There'll be some things thrown around across the room.
Yeah, it feels good.
Some screaming,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But after that settled moment, I'll just adapt. I'll change.
Yeah.
Tact. Okay, well, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Sorry. And let's see what worked in that original idea and take those into the next version, right?
Yeah, and I want to say something about what you are saying there. I think you and I are really alike when you are speaking about that, because in my workshop also things, suddenly go into the wall and sometimes even through the wall. So all of us need to get out frustration sometimes, but it's all about learning outcomes. So in the military, I learned probably one of the most important learnings I had, because we humans, when we get good feedback, we kind of lay back and relax, and you know, then we're kind of finished in our heads. You know, we've done our task and are happy, so we get lazy. But when we do stuff that are not that good and we're not happy with the result that much, we kind of go into the basement and you know, get a little depressed about it. And we shouldn't. We should keep neutral. That doesn't mean that you need to be, you know, stripped of emotions. Absolutely not. But if you do good stuff, if you have good results, don't celebrate right away. Do a debrief. What did I do right in able to end up here with the good result I have? And if you know, fail, stop and do the evaluation instead of being depressed. That's the best thing that can happen. It's learning, right? So evaluation, even though, you know, positive or negative, is super important.
Yeah.
Just stop and evaluate, debrief.
Well, let's talk about some of your projects. Let's start off with the power socket.
Yeah.
Now, you've designed a new power socket.
Yes. I didn't put the screws in the middle, but though, just saying, that's an engineer.
God, engineers ruin everything.
Yeah.
Why redesign the power socket?
Oh, this is a really good question, because the power socket design, the story behind it is, it's one of the smallest, quickest projects I ever done, and now it's kind of, you know, displayed in the Norwegian National Museum, as I'm so proud of that. But when I go to the museum and look at it, it's this little tiny thing hidden among all the amazing design works in Norway, so I feel a little small also. But the thing is, there are millions and millions of power sockets all over the world, and everybody uses it all the time, every day. Absolutely every day, everybody's using a power socket, as long as you are living in a society with electricity, of course, right? And there are different standards, but I realized that there is a problem. I analyzed the power socket. This was a school assignment when I was studying, I think it was my bachelor's period, second year. So I decided to take an everyday product and just make it better, just make it more inclusive, more universal, so that everybody could use it. And the power socket was the one I began with, but I didn't know what the problem was yet that I wanted to work with. So I did a total analyze, and I had this, you know, materialistic approach to it, looking at materials, how could I make it more sustainable in manufacturing and so on. But one of many problems that I saw with the power socket was that, you know, sometimes when it's dark, I kind of struggle finding the way, right? So what about people that are blind? What about people that are, you know, their fine motor skills are not?
Yeah, right.
Yeah?
I'm like struggling all the time.
Yeah.
I got this power board under my computer desk, which I often take a power thing out, and I'm like, I should get it back in. I'm turning. I'm like,
it's crazy, right?
And I'm like, Nima, where are you?
But it's on the way onto the market now. But the thing is, when I saw this problem, I was like, this needs to be solved, but not in a way that is irrational, because you can't change all power sockets in the world, the systems. But let's make something that is easy to change. So I had to use the same principles that we have now within the same standards, right? So I did that, and this is the result. And so many people ask me, you know, how did you come up with the idea? Were you, you know, did you dream of it? It was like, I didn't come up with the idea at all, actually. I came up with a problem. I saw a good problem, and the result is what it is. And I actually, in the process, had some solutions that was functionally much better than this one, which was just amazing. You just took the socket and it kind of find it on its own way, but it was so ugly. And in this case, ugliness is, you know, power sockets are ugly anyway.
Yeah.
But let's make it as beautiful as possible, because, you know, the one that was super functioning was looking like a small toilet. So in this case, aesthetics was also part of the function.
Starting with the problem, though, you talk about, why is that important?
Because if anybody can tell me one idea in the world that is not based on a problem, I will give you a medal and show you a liar. Because the nature of ideas are problems. when I say problems, that doesn't mean, world-changing problems or catastrophic problems. It could be small problems. It could be this glass I'm holding in my hand not being as stable as it can be,
Right.
potentially. So identifying real problems is, I think, is the key to finding good ideas. And when you have a problem, you see that the ideation process just begins, right? How can I do it differently? And then you kind of end up ideating around it.
Yeah, I love this idea because that's how I do a lot of my work.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I couldn't be asked getting off the sofa to walk 4 steps to the fridge and get a beer.
Why should you?
Why wouldn't I build a refrigerator under my butt?
Yeah.
And have a voice controlled? I don't want to push buttons because that's like too much work.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't I just say sofa beer me and the sofa spits out a beer?
You solved
I
solved the problem.
And it was a real problem for me.
Yeah. But you also solved the Norwegian arm problem.
Well, the jury's still out on that, actually, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
I love that.
I tried. I tried to give it a crack, but you can't change culture.
No.
And that's an interesting thing when you're designing something. You have to think about some of the outside environment. So, for example, for the Norwegian arm, for those guys who don't know, I built like it's actually a conveyor belt in the middle of my dining table to stop people reaching across me when I was trying to eat. And growing up in Australia, I thought that was a horrible, horrible thing to do. It's like very rude. But in Norway, it's a normal thing, right? So I thought rather than yell at everybody and say it's rude, I can't change people. Maybe I can physically change their behaviors by creating this device. And in the end, it didn't work because my daughter all of a sudden just reached across me to grab the salad rather than waiting 3 or 4 seconds for it to come around. So you can't win all the problems.
But then you have a new problem. It's the time, right? So impatient. So you have to make it quicker. Then you solve that problem.
True that. Yeah. Let's talk about some of your more ambitious projects.
Yeah.
You have built an amazing or designed an amazing thing, and I wondered why a boy from Hakadal, Norway, wanted to build the world's fastest sled.
Yeah, that was also a problem. And the problem was a couple of guys that grew up in the same street as I that had faster snow sleds.
Yeah.
And that's also a world-changing problem because in Hakadal, I grew up in top of a hill. I was actually living in the last house just on top. And it was a hill. We had this akebakke, that for English-speaking people, it's a racetrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, for badass kids. So it was, I think, 500 meters long, so pretty long, straight, so you can go fast. And looking back at it now, I guess probably around 10%. What's it called? Sleep. Yeah, fall. So it was the most amazing place. I could go straight out of my door and just sled super fast. And it started out by wanting to build the fastest slow sled in a street. That wasn't enough. So I built this idea in my head. Let's build the fastest in Norway, and went on and ended up dreaming of building the fastest snow sled in the world.
That's cool.
So that was the idea that kind of followed me for years until I began my design studies after being in the military for years and stuff. And the dream was still there. And I was like, okay, why? What's the rational reason of doing this? Yeah, the most rational reason, it's super fun.
And cool.
And inspiring. And so there are a lot of good reasons to do it. But it was also a way of doing a technology aerodynamic design development, which was as advanced as Formula One, the level of Formula One, but in the most sustainable way you can do it. So you can have race cars on a track with batteries and electric vehicles, super cool and sustainable, but not 100% sustainable. This is not 100% sustainable because we need to use materials and stuff to build it, but it's as close as we can get, and it's just kind of developed to being this crazy, extremely advanced project, and ended up from sketches and ideas when I was a child to a full-scale prototype and a lot of small-scale prototypes that was tested in the world's most advanced wind tunnel in Cologne, Germany at Toyota Motorsport. That was sick being there because that this is this one extremely advanced wind tunnel model in the world. So everybody's testing there. So McLaren and Ferrari and all the people that has their own wind tunnels, when they need more advanced wind tunnels, they go to Cologne and rent this one. So
there's a boy from Hokkaido.
It was just, I remember I went into the room and I was like, yeah, this is where James Bond lives. So yeah, it was super cool. And now we are actually working hard on landing the last piece of finances in order to beat the record. And the record today is 124, I think, British Guy Martin that has the record. And the wind tunnel analyses show that we can beat the 300 kilometers per hour record, which will be the fastest gravity-powered vehicle ever made.
Awesome.
Not only on snow, but in general. So
Awesome.
It's sick. Yeah.
It seems though you have a thing for speed.
Yes, I do.
You've designed a couple of cars, and
Yeah.
you most recently redesigned the Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah.
And what is it about speed that gets your designer juices flowing?
Yeah. The thing about design and speed is it's actually more of my interest in. There are three interests that ends up me digging speed, and that's science. It's cars, and it's the fun of it. So the fun part is my interest in cars and stuff, and the science part is that a lot of the things we do give us are challenging because of the rules of physics. And doing design work, designing a race car, it doesn't solve a world problem directly, but indirectly it does, because a lot of the technology and design we can apply to other types of vehicles, for instance, sustainable trains and stuff, and material research and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in racing cars, you are not designing and competing against other competitors in reality. You are designing and competing against the laws of nature. You are competing against the forces of gravity, the centrifugal powers. There are so many forces of science working against you because our planet and the way our atmosphere and our oxygen and air don't really want things to go too fast.
That's right.
So that's what kind of motivates me on these projects. It's super cool. And this project was we actually redesigned and rebuilt. It started up being a styling project.
Yeah.
Let's buy a couple of Lamborghinis and have fun with them. To actually totally redesigning the body beside the front window and the roof, because that was a part of the chassis. So everything else is redesigned, but not only redesigned, we ended up building a complete factory with capacity of building 15 to 20 cars a year in Nannestad, just outside of Oslo. And this was, beside work, this was a hobby project. So this car has over 950 in-house design and manufactured parts.
That's amazing.
So there's not so much Lamborghini left.
Yeah, but I want to take it back a bit, because you said you weren't a millionaire playboy, and then you just all of a sudden said, I thought it would be cool if we buy a couple Lamborghinis.
Yeah. Not with my money. That's also that's a problem that needs to be solved, right?
Right.
So when you want to buy a couple of Lamborghini, actually 4 Lamborghinis, what do you do when you don't have the money? You have to solve it. You have to go to a rich eccentric guy and say, hey, dude, trust me, this is a good idea. And the guy says, yeah, cool, let's do this. And suddenly, you have the car standing there. No, we had investors. So my investment in this project has been 5,000 working hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of arguing and tools going through the wall and stuff. But what we ended up with is something that is absolutely amazing, and I don't dare to drive it.
It looks cool. Looks really cool.
Yeah, sounds even cooler.
Oh, I can only imagine. A lot of your projects seem to be like go big or go home.
Yeah.
And a really great thing about big projects is they often get a lot of attention
Yeah.
and they seem to open doors.
Yeah.
And one of the doors that's opened has been the space program for you.
Yes, absolutely.
What did they see in you over all the thousands of other applicants that applied
Yeah.
to be in the space program? Why Nima Shahinian from Hakesdal, Norway?
Yeah, they chose the dumb one because, and I hope they don't regret that. No, the thing is, we have to understand what an astronaut really is. An astronaut is not a career in itself. An astronaut is part of a career. So every astronaut has their own profession from somewhere. So you have medical doctors, you have bioengineers, you have engineers, you have fighter pilots, test pilots, and so on. So astronauts are kind of chosen mission specific. What do we need right now in space? Do we need people that can fly the spaceships, or do we need people that can repair something or do some science, or do we need a medical doctor on the space station? Whatever. Point is, so it's not only about being intelligent and all that stuff, the right stuff they call it. I don't think I have all the right stuff, but what I did have was my design skills and my problem solving skills. So when I applied first time, they didn't need me. So first time I applied was in 2008 to the for a previous ESA selection, European Space Agency selection. I came to second or third round of selection, and then I was out because I didn't have the mission specific needs for that. And I know a couple of the astronauts that was chosen there. And in 2016, my application was found in a stack of applications, and oh, cool, aviation background and military background and all that stuff combined with the design thing. This is interesting. Let's talk. So because we are in a part of space development where we need a lot of design development, both systematic but also product, and looking at how to develop the future of space exploration. So I'm part of a design research project in space now. So
Which is interesting because we don't often think as designers being valuable for the space program, right? We think of jet fighter pilots and scientists, that sort of thing. I think it's really awesome that someone with a creative mind is needed in such a high level, of such an elite program.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's super cool to see that as a designer, because we designers want to promote what we are doing and show the world, that we can kind of step into all the parts of society. I'm never saying that designers are the most important people in the world, even though design in general, it's a lot of divas in our world. Let's be honest. But we are a part of a system, and we need all the systems. So I think within 10 or 20 years, or when we colonize Mars, we will suddenly see that we need electricians on Mars. We will need plumbers. We will need builders. We will need more teachers. There will be children on spaceships. So we will expand and need all the kind of careers and capacities that we have here on Earth. That is going to space, and part of that the road is bringing designers up.
So where are you at with your training?
I have completed my what's called basic training, because all astronauts go through what we call basic training, which means you learn to fly a rocket, you learn to fly a spaceship, you learn to land a rocket, to survive outside of a rocket and use a spacesuit, and how to make food and go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. So that makes you an astronaut. It's kind of like being a soldier. You need the basic knowledge, becoming a general soldier, and then you train mission specific. So what I'm lacking now is my mission specific training. So I have on my CV education, design school, bachelor's, masters, and astronaut school, check. So that's cool.
Awesome.
On education point of my
Imagine getting someone like you apply for a normal job and
Yeah.
that's what they don't sell us.
So yeah. So
That's
these
awesome.
days I'm reading about a lot of SpaceX systems and stuff. So yeah.
I did wonder though, like, you're doing in your training, you're doing simulated spacewalks, you spinning at I don't know how many G's in the centrifuge.
Century, yeah, 16, 18 Gs or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you being a designer, and it's in your blood, does it stop or should it stop the designing process?
It never stops, and that's the curse of being a designer, right? Because you always constantly think about how things could be changed and different. And while we were talking now, I'm holding a microphone with the antenna on the behind, which is hitting my my stomach, and I'm thinking, is it my stomach or is it the antenna? Probably my stomach. But point is, that's the nature of being a designer, right? Always asking the questions how things could be different, and just imagine all the systems. The first time I crawled into a spacesuit, it was the Orlan spacesuit, the Russian spacewalking suit, which the one that everybody loves. Americans also love that better than their own. It's a one-piece thing, and they open this back, and the back is like 42.64 centimeters or so. It's super small. And I looked at my own body and thought, okay, I'm a 100-kilo guy. They expect me to crawl into this, through this hole. This is like, being, reversing the birth. It's just crazy. But I did it, and I broke a rib getting out of it first time, actually.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, because it's so tight. It's actually so tight that if you don't empty your lungs, you can't fit into it. But I was training with Samantha Cristoforetti, which came home from space she was using the same suit as I, and she's like half my size, and she kind of, popped into it. But then she had a problem because her feet couldn't reach down to the shoes. Yeah, because it's a one-size thing.
Yeah.
You can adjust it a little bit, but so I seen, maybe 1,000 problems only on the spacesuit alone, and sitting in the simulators and the seats, and this metal thing pushing somewhere. How could it be different? Do you really need that button? It's constantly, So I tried to convince the space agency that guys, I have the answers to all your problems. It's a constant kind of process.
Were the Russians open to new design changes, or are they pretty close-minded?
Yeah, the Russians have two sides. One is being super arrogant because they are so proud of their space program. So some of them kind of, if I even mention or asked why things are like they are, if they don't have the answer, they react by getting pissed off.
Yeah.
So inside the Soyuz capsule, some of the levers are in oak. They are made by, they are wood. And I was like, yeah, the polished wood, super beautifully made. It's handmade. And I asked the instructor, which is one of my instructors, Zohan, was probably, this guy has been in space flying this thing and engineered and now is my instructor. And I asked him, why is that in oak? And he was like, wow, nobody ever asked that. Shut up and go to work again. so that's the way they do it. And yeah, but they are open for ideas also.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of your projects and your dreams have this thread of like you just believe in them. And I think that feels to me like that's what's got you to the point you are. Do you have a certain philosophy around belief?
Yes, I do. I'm not a religious person at all, never been. I don't come from a religious family. So I don't have that kind of belief. But I have a belief that is based on the word God from the Iranian language.
Okay.
And that's Khoda. Khoda means self. So the Iranian interpretation, I'm not talking about the religious interpretation of God, but the Iranian cultural interpretation of God is that their interpretation is that there is no God. You are kind of the God of your life and your universe, and you need to kind of believe in that you are not the key to solving, human race problems, but you are a part of that. You have to believe that your part is one out of 8 point something billion, and it's important. So I really have that belief that anyone can do extreme important things, but I also have one experience, which is, I think not my experience. Everybody has that experience, but it's something that I kind of feel all the time, and that's the consequences of coincidental happenings in life and events. So there are so many just random coincidences that made me sit here right now talking to you. Just the fact that my parents met and made me exactly the time they made me, the two exact cells that ended up being this little baby, which is now a bearded guy. So there are so many coincidences in life that actually drag us into this. And I have two super short stories that motivated me to become a designer, even though I had my detours. And as a kid, the first time was me and my dad looking at a Lamborghini Countach, which is a super ugly, that's a millionaire playboy kind of car. But for me as an 8-year-old kid, that was super interesting. And my dad was telling me that designers have done choices on where the air intakes is going to be and stuff. But then I had another, what can I say, eye-opening event in my life, and that was when I sent one of my car drawings, to the design studio of Audi. I was like 7 or something. You send it by mail. This super, as a 7-year-old draws. And I didn't hear anything back until 6 months. And then I got a book in the mail with a letter from him, which was I still have it. And he wrote, "Thank you for the drawing. I'm hanging it in my office. And I think we are going to be colleagues one day." That's it.
That's awesome.
And that was a life-changing moment for me. This famous Audi designer was sending me a book, and I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be your colleague one day. so yeah, small coincidences change everything, and I that's where my belief is at. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's the same way I think nothing happens for no reason.
Nothing.
And especially, like just this podcast wouldn't exist if I hadn't decided to go to Birmingham one day.
Yeah.
And meet a bunch of other creative people like myself. And so from that one step, actually, I lie. The real beginning of that journey, this maker journey for me, was I found Hansmeyer on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I said, "It looks like you live in Oslo and you like making weird stuff like I do."
And he's awesome.
And, maybe we should hang out for a cup of coffee or something one day. And that's how it all started.
Yeah.
So I believe in that. And that's my also same, belief is the word. Yeah. I want to wrap this thing up though, by going into the rapid fire 5. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. Just answer them.
Can't wait.
As quick as you can. So the first one, here we go. What's something people get wrong about you?
That I'm a millionaire playboy.
What's something you like doing that has nothing to do with making or designing?
Oh, is making food also making?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing.
Eating food?
Eating food is also making poo.
Yeah, that's true.
Nutritious for new food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Grab every opportunity. Be both proactive and opportunistic. Drive it like you stole it.
Drive it like you stole it.
Yeah.
Who's someone that you admire that never gets the recognition they deserve?
My mom. Absolutely my mom. She never said no to me. Mom, I want to build a supercar. Oh, cool. Where do you want to build it? That's the attitude. My mom. Definitely my mom.
Awesome.
My dad gets a lot of recognition because, cars and stuff, but my
Right.
mom don't. Yeah, she's awesome.
And the last question, which a lot of people seem to struggle with, is what does happiness look like?
Happiness looks like not being overly content by your situation, but not be depressed by it either. Just find a balance where you are always looking for new cool stuff to do and having fun. I think that's the ultimate happiness for me. The
Awesome.
middle way there, yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I want to wrap this thing up by saying one thing I've learned from Nima is that he has a power of belief in his dreams. And you know what? Even if he doesn't end up going to space, something always good comes from believing in yourself, right?
100%.
And, I think everyone here, whether you're a maker, whether you're a designer, whether you're an artist, you've all got a superpower, and that superpower is problem solving. And you guys need to remember that. You've got that superpower of problem solving. And I'll show you here. You've all got a superpower. As you can see there, I'm Aquaman.
That's awesome.
And look, all you guys have to do is believe in yourselves. I hope you guys got something valuable from this podcast, and that you guys have been inspired to reach for the stars and go make your ideas reality. Thank you, Nima, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for listening to this.
Thanks, guys. I'm Justin White. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, keep pushing yourselves, keep ballsing up things, keep learning, get inspired, and I'll catch you on the flip side.